Hello and welcome back to another episode of KSP POV. Today we've got a couple different things we're going to be working on. Some of our contracts, this contract right here is going to call for us to make a little bit of a rover. So we're gonna work on that first. Very excited. I didn't play around with rovers all that much in just my regular gameplay, just for myself and stuff. I haven't really done too much with rovers, but I actually end up enjoying it a lot more than I thought in this episode. So I might end up trying to do a few more rovers as well. Like as always, we're doing today's episode in first-person mode, so we're using the Mission Control Room Recontrolled mod. And there was something about it that was very fun. I really enjoyed just watching the little rover go do some science. So yeah, so we're gonna work on that. I realized I needed a different engine. The airplane engine wasn't gonna work. So yeah, so as per usual, we're in the mission control room and we're just setting up our screens, but we're only gonna be really using these two screens. So yeah, so now we're rolling. We're going down the runway and we're headed towards our first location, which is the mission control room. We've got our action groups set up there, and they're labeled based on the area that they're supposed to be in. So all we have to do is get to the right area and then press the button and the appropriate science will activate. Because it's not all the science in each area, it's specific experiments. So yeah, so I've got the log up there. I thought the vessel view might be kind of fun, but I don't end up looking up there very much. But I've got the vessel log to the right that gives us the very important information of what biome we're in. If you look there towards the bottom, you'll see science and biome and see that we're on the runway. I take a moment to look at the progress of the scan set that we launched last episode, but there's not much. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Going down the runway always takes forever, but it is the safest way to enter all the other parts of the KSC. You can take a shortcut and go across the grass, but that requires you to go down a hill and then up a hill, and that's dangerous sometimes. Alright, so coming out of the fast-forwarded part of this, but we are time warping a little bit, or physics warping, because we're still moving. Let's go ahead and bring ourselves up there. And I was surprised at how well the brakes worked on this. It is a fairly lightweight craft. There's not really much going on with it. But out of all my rovers, the brakes on this one seemed to be the best, and they were with very basic parts. The wheels you get first. And so now we're heading off to our second location. I believe we only have 4 locations. So a lot of this is based off of memory of me just knowing where the certain buildings are. If you're new to KSP and you're trying to do the same kind of challenge, it will help to kind of look at the map screen before you get started and kind of try to plot your route through that. Figuring out where all the buildings are. When I was in the VA or the spaceplane hangar and I was making all the action groups, that's one of the things that I really paid attention to was the best route to go, which would be the easiest to follow and everything. And so I organized the experiments based off that. But yeah, there's something fun about just driving around the KSC. Like, I was really enjoying it, and I end up doing another one of these missions a little bit later in the episode. I think I actually do 2 more missions, but I do another one of these because I just enjoyed it so much, and it's easy money and easy science, so why not? Alright, so now we're going to be working on a relay satellite, something to help us further our communication network, because what we have now is very rough. So I want to just fill it out a little bit better, make it a little stronger. It still is an early game, early RemoteTech communications network, so it will be replaced eventually once we have better quality satellite dishes, ones that can go farther. These ones can't even reach the MUN, so they're not going to be very useful to us going forward once we start sending probes out that way. We are going to need to set up its own communications network around the MUN before we can really start thinking about sending probes and rovers. Yeah, based off of the enjoyment that I had from that last little mission, I think we're definitely going to send a rover to the MUN. Like I said before, I don't normally play around with rovers. In going through the tracking station, we get to see just how alone we are. With the mod research bodies, it basically hides all the celestial bodies except for Kerbal, the Sun, and the MUN. No Minmus, no Eve, no Duna. Yeah. So now we're time warping because I want to get that our satellite into place above the KSC as much as possible to get a connection, but we weren't in the right place, so we had to really fast forward time until KSC came around again, and so we had the connection there. So we're going to go ahead and launch our rocket now. The reason why I didn't put it on the launch pad until then is because the batteries would drain during that time, and then by the time we got ready to launch, it would probably be dead. So, you can't always launch at sunrise or afternoon. Sometimes you have to do it in the dark of night. So go ahead and get myself set up, and then, just like always, aim for an efficient takeoff. And we're getting to the point where we can kind of predict that we'll have good takeoffs. We'll have good turns. Our pieces will separate. We've really put some experience into this rocket and knowing how it works and how to fly it. Yeah, we're just cruising up. The thing about RemoteTech is that you are going to spend a lot of time setting up networks. It's just, there's no two ways about it. That's just a part of dealing with RemoteTech. So we'll probably end up either, if I do anything special with the setups of satellites, then maybe I'll show it, but I might end up doing some just minor things like that, episodes that might not be the most interesting, because it's just launching rockets, the same rocket over and over again, doing the same maneuvers over and over again. So I might end up doing that off camera, but we'll see. I mean, if that's something that someone that you want to see, then let me know. Because obviously, it's like, I enjoy doing it, I have fun doing it. I just don't assume, I assume that people don't enjoy watching it. But if you enjoy watching it, then I'll show it. No problem with that. I really wish those buttons worked. So, yeah, so now we're just keeping an eye on our apoapsis, pushing up. We're not going, our timed apoapsis wasn't going up very quickly, so I had to tilt back a little bit. Aim more towards the space and atmosphere area. This rocket has a tendency of pointing towards the horizon just a little too soon, and then really rides the time to apoapsis. you're just barely behind it, and sometimes it'll go past it. So we have to keep an eye on that if we're just following the prograde. Now we're out of our apoapsis is out of the atmosphere. We get to 100 kilometers and we go ahead and kill the engine. And then there we go. We're now in space. We go ahead and circularize our burn, and we go and bring our apoapsis up to where it should be for our satellite. Stage the fairing. And then deploy the satellite. So yeah, as you see in the vessel view, there's all the dishes are out. And since this doesn't have any extendable solar panels, they're all fixed to the craft. There's nothing to extend that way. You can see our vertical speed was going down over there on the right hand side, and that's one good way of seeing how close to the apoapse you are. Once again, we bring up ScanSnap to see how it's been doing, but again, it hasn't really been a lot of time since the last episode, so. We get a few achievements. I don't know why it takes us until now to get the orbiting Kerbal achievement, because we definitely did it with that satellite that you see before, but maybe polar orbit doesn't matter? Or doesn't count for the achievements? Maybe it's only equatorial, and they assume that you're going to go equatorial. Yeah, so right now I'm looking at the cheat menu because my satellite seems to have lost control. And every now and then I've noticed that there's a bug with the fixed satellite or with the fixed solar panels that sometimes they don't charge. Um, and so I looked into the cheat menu to give myself a little bit of electricity to see if, like, the reason why they weren't charging, just to give them a little bit more juice. And I found out that it wasn't a bug this time. What it was is that I was just not I was generating, or I was using too much electricity for how much I was generating. Um, so that was it was a problem of design, and it's mainly because the solar panels are inadequate. Yeah, so I end up giving up on the satellite. It's kind of dead in the water. It's not going to be able to circularize, and we don't have control of it. So I'm going to take a few contracts. I look at this contract for a little bit, and this is opening up and researching the bodies, the min-miss and whatnot. But I keep not going back to it because it's just a contract that takes up time. It just takes time to run. Um, but you have to pay 125,000 for it. It has a negative advance on it. You do get some money back for completing it. No, actually, I don't think you get any money back for completing it. Anyway, so now we're working on our second rover. We've got another experiment. We got to do 2 material bays experiments, so that's why it's got this funky little butt. And then I decided to try a higher camera, see if maybe a more third-person overview look might be more interesting. Spoiler, it's not. So yeah, there's our little happy NG Cat V2. That's what we're gonna end up. That's what the Champagne mod suggested. Yeah, you see how it's tilted. That's what the Champagne mod suggested as the name for our rover, and so I think we're gonna go for it. I think this is gonna be the happy NG Cat line because it's just so happy to collect science. Yep. So those are all the different zones that we have to do our science in. And once again, I fast forward through the trek down the runway because it's a long runway. But once we start getting into the KSP proper, I figured I'd come back to show you how the drive went. Because yeah, it was fun. Just mount a camera on the front of your rover and just drive around. Now I'm using the landing screen of the monitor, so that's why it says contact up top. I don't really like it, but it gives me my horizontal speed, and so that gives me an idea of how fast I'm going and if I'm starting to go into dangerous territories. But once again, the brakes were actually surprisingly effective, so didn't have too much of a worry there. And I'm using the Beagle engine, which is part of Ven's stock revamp mod, but it's fairly equivalent to the Terrier. So if you don't have that mod, you can just use the Terrier here, and it'll achieve basically the same thing because it's such a small payload. The Terrier is pretty decent with the thrust to weight ratio in the atmosphere. And we come speeding towards the administration building, and thankfully our brakes stopped us in time. I was actually really worried about this one. I knew the brakes were doing pretty well, but this one I was just powering towards the front door, and look how close we got. I'm sure one of the directors or maybe all of them were sweating as they were looking out their office window. So now we're going back to satellites. Like I said, we're just going to kind of flip back and forth between them and rovers. But now we are making a lunar flyby probe, a little science probe. Ends up being called Ascension's Hope. Thought that was a pretty fun name for a lofty goal, a moonshot, if you will. So yeah, so once again, I separate all the experiments, remove them from symmetry, and then I go and I load each one into their action group. These action groups I'm naming high space and low space because I'm going to aim to get very close to the surface so I can get both high space and low space. So I go and try to stick this antenna right in there, nice and hidden, keep everything nice and compact. And I throw a relay dish on here, and I'm thinking myself to be pretty clever. I thought, that would be good. I go ahead and point it towards active vessel. The idea is that if something were to happen, this basically turns into a small relay. Here's why that's not clever. Here's where I messed up with that. I only have one relay dish on there. It's pointed towards active vessel, and it doesn't have another relay to bounce a signal from. So I won't be getting a signal from the KSP to bounce to the active vessel. You could say that I could control this vessel by using the signal from another one that does have signal from the KSC. But the problem is the moment that I switch to this vessel, this is now the active vessel, and the signal is gone. So having one relay dish is not clever because it doesn't really work at that point. And then the other part that wasn't very clever about doing this is because I chose to put it to active vessel instead of the KSC, then I can't control it later. Also, I don't know if you just noticed there, but I had another error in this launch, and that is when I put the fuel duct on there that was one of the last things I did, put the fuel duct to get from the side booster to the center. I didn't notice that my symmetry was off, and I was in one way, so only one booster has a fuel tank connected to the center tank, which means that the side boosters are going to drain unevenly. So look forward to that soon. But yeah, so this rocket wasn't the best. I was kind of forcing it a little bit. I had been recording for quite some time at this point, and being a little bit frustrated in my progress. I felt that today was going really slow. I enjoyed messing around with the Rovers, but I did feel like I was kind of just messing around, wasn't really getting anything going. So as you can see, I didn't really pay attention, and one of the boosters falls back to Kerbal, and the other one just launches straight off. And that's why I was having so much trouble controlling it before, why it was getting all wobbly, was because they were draining unevenly. So yeah, this is already starting to feel like a failed mission, but we are living with our mistakes, and we're going to try to push forward. We're not going to be reverting. And I thought about maybe just taking it back to the planet, just letting it land again, but we've kind of gone a little too far at this point. Well, basically, the only way that we could really do it would be to separate the top stage and just let that come down and let the bottom stage burn up, because I think it's too heavy to do a manual burn or a manual landing. Powered landing? What are those called? Powered landing? I think it's that. So yeah, so I decided to just go forward with the mission, bring it up into space. It's just doing a flyby, so it doesn't need too much delta V, and it's just a probe, so we can aero brake pretty fine and not feel worried about, killing any Kerbals or anything. Like, yeah, it would suck if we couldn't get the payload back, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. Yep, so yeah, so now we're in space, so we're going to go ahead and jettison the heat shield, or the fairings, and then we go ahead and deploy the satellite. It's good to do that as soon as you hit space, so you don't forget, you don't have an antenna that is just retracted. So we're going to go ahead and just get our periapsis up. Just wait. Our time to apoapsis just get a little bit higher, be a little bit more efficient. And there we go. We've plotted a course out to the Mun. But the problem is that every little maneuver I make doesn't bring us into low space. So what I do is I decide to just take the closest one that's given to me, and then we're gonna make a minor course correction when we're out a little bit more. We plot that into our flight computer so it's nice and automated. And it's pretty good. Sometimes the flight computer has a tendency of overshooting or undershooting. This one wasn't bad. And I mean, I'm going to be correcting it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I go ahead and correct it mid-flight so that way I can come into low space. It is a polar orbit, which I am not entirely thrilled about, but it's the best way to save our delta V, and we don't have a lot of it. Yeah, because of that booster not giving us the fuel towards the end that we needed. It's not good. Oh yeah, my craft glitched out a little bit there. I think I show it again a little bit later, but it has a protruding nose kind of thing. Yep, so I go ahead and start my first set of experiments here in high space. And grab all those. And my screen's cut out a little bit. Oh, that's right. I didn't have enough delta V to get to low space. I forgot about that. That's right. So I didn't have enough to get to low space, so I decided to just I was going to go do it in high space. Yeah, there's that weird protrusion. So I go ahead and just do my experiments. And the problem that I have right here is that I am too far away to make contact with Kerbin's communication network because, once again, that relay dish that I have is pointing towards active vessel, not Kerbin. So all I'm relying on is my omnidirectional Communitron 16. And that's definitely not going to be powerful enough to reach Kerbin from where I'm at. And so I go and I try to retarget the relay dish with no luck because, of course, there's no control. This is the observation room. This is added by the research body mod, so I just wanted to take a quick look at it because I had never actually seen it before. So yeah, so I'm looking at my contracts, seeing where I should go from here. Feeling a little frustrated because that contract didn't work. So I decided, what would make me feel better? Let's do some science around the KSP. That would make me feel better. And doing science around the KSC is important because it gives you extra science, and early game, that's all you need, or that's the most important thing you need. Because if we could unlock another node in the tech tree, there's a chance that we could get something that will make our satellite network easier. Yeah, we might be able to unlock an engine that gets us to space better, or a better set of solar panels. I don't know why I always replace the word solar with satellite. Every time I've called them satellite panels, or almost called them satellite panels. But yeah, so if we were to unlock a set of solar panels or a new relay dish that could revolutionize our work with trying to set up our satellites right now. So science really is the name of the game. Kerbal Science Program. So yeah, once again, going on to the crawler way. Do our experiments. This contract is from the contracts is from a contracts packs mod. I don't think it's standard, but basically, it gives you 1 or 2 experiments in each biome to do several times over. So if you choose not to just rush the biomes and just do all the experiments all at once, and just let the contract dictate which ones you do, you can do this contract over and over again and eventually collect all the science from it. But sometimes it could be tempting to just grab everything. The reason why it's not asking me to collect any science from the runway or the launch pad is because I've already gone through both of those places and just made a small rocket that had all the science on it. So, but with that, I am going to leave you here. That was an interesting episode. I enjoyed the rover piloting, and so hopefully you did too, because we're going to do some more rovers. We're going to throw one onto the mud. So if you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.